Welcome to another edition of the Ultimate Weigh-In Show. I'm your host, Manpreet, aka MMA Lock of the Night, and your boy on social media at MMA LOT. And this week, we're going over UFC 274, headlined by two title fights. We got the lightweight title on the line, hopefully, with Charles Oliveira taking on Justin Gaethje, and then in the co-main event, we're looking at a strawweight title fight between Rose Namajunas trying to avenge her first ever loss in the UFC to Carla Esparza. Way back in December of 2014 is when they first fought. Carla Esparza got the dub that night, picking up a third round rear naked choke. Now Rose Namajunas is looking to avenge that loss and defend her title while doing so. But I first have a guest that I want to bring on with me, and I have a great guest for you guys, a very well-known and respected journalist in the game. He knows his shit. He's very good with interviewing fighters and giving us that humanizing athletes article that we normally see on a week-to-week basis. Love my guy, and I was more than happy to finally bring him onto the show. Give a round of applause for my guy, Alex Behunin. What's going on, Alex?
Manpreet, thank you so much for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
No, for sure, brother. We've DM'd back and forth quite a lot over the the last year or so. We've really gotten pretty good with each other, and I was very happy to extend the invite to you here. I was looking through. I'm like, who can I bring on to help really drive home the point of how big this card is? Let me call on my guy Alex, and sure enough, you're in the middle of a move, if I'm not mistaken, but you still answer the call here, so I truly appreciate that.
I appreciate it, bro. And I must say, I think we have the two best beards in MMA. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe Luke Thomas at times may have something to say, but
true.
No, I'll take that compliment for sure. Before we get into the fights, though, I quickly actually just wanted to ask you. I was going to ask you last night when you tweeted about it, but I'm like, you know what? Let me save it for the show. A couple of nights ago, you went to go watch The Northman. That new Vikings movie that was out, and I went to go watch it pretty much the day that it came out. I was very excited for it, very interested to see what it is. I know you are a sober individual. You've been sober for many years at this point in time. I went high as a kite, baked off of smoked a nice fat J before I went to go watch that movie, and I immediately regretted it during that first ritual scene. Like, what the heck? Are they just gonna? Is the director gonna come out from behind the screen and be like, "Joke's on you guys"? Like, I was mystified at what I experienced in that movie. What were your quick takeaways from that movie without giving too much away?
What's crazy is I went in kind of with low expectations because I heard that it's like the greatest thing in cinema to it sucked ass and don't watch it. So I was like, fuck, where am I? So I kind of went in with low expectations and I thoroughly enjoyed myself, man. They could have cut maybe 20 minutes out of it. It was a little bit long, but other than that, man, it was cool. I'm a violence connoisseur, so I love violence movies. It was good, and I thought the story was cool. It kind of just ended in a way, so that portion was whatever. But other than that, I fucking thoroughly enjoyed myself. Have you seen Doctor Strange though?
I haven't, and I didn't want to mention that at all because I know a lot of people are like, hey, let's keep the spoilers to a minimum. And I'm going to do my best to go over it. Maybe even tonight, if I can find tickets. It's more than likely going to be sold out, but I want to go watch it because there's nothing more that I hate than spoilers. So I do want to watch that ASAP. And just by seeing from your reaction, seems like it was a damn good movie, eh?
It was, dude. It's fun, and the cameos in it are fucking great. So please avoid spoilers at all costs.
I will do so. All right, let's get back into the MMA side of things here. And I'm quickly seeing that one of the gaps that we had this morning was Charles Oliveira coming up or half a pound over the championship weight limit. He is stepping on the scale once again. And I'm just going to quickly wait here for a second to see if he makes it. They got the box of shame out for him. He still hits 155.5. Does that mean his title gets vacated?
From what I've heard, that if he beats Justin, it's a vacant title. But if Justin wins, he's the champion. So,
yeah, I was just trying to hear what Anik was saying, but nothing from him. Crazy that he weighed in initially at 155.5 pounds. They gave him an hour, and here he is now. Nothing came off. Nothing came off. And even Michael Chandler actually tweeted out just saying, making weight is always hard, but thinking you're on weight, then missing weight, just to have to go back and lose more weight after you lost your initial sweat is a living nightmare, both physically and mentally. Man, not the way I really want to start off this stream, but that really adds a wrench into the title implications of this fight. So normally it's like you said, if Charles Oliveira wins, the title is going to be vacant, if I'm not mistaken. But if Gaethje wins, more than likely he gets the title. Is that correct?
From my understanding, yeah, that is correct, which is fucking crazy. Wow.
It's insane. Like, for the champion to miss weight, and again, not even lose anything for the hour. Like, you got to wonder how much of a detriment that truly puts him at, right? Like that's insane to me. I'm speechless.
Yeah, it is. Someone was saying that he botched it, like he was on weight, and maybe something happened, and that little bit came back on. I don't. Man, it is crazy, dude. Charles Oliveira is like, that's been one of the big negatives about him, right? Is his weight misses when he was at featherweight, and now he misses at lightweight, and now he's gonna lose his title if he wins. Fuck, dude.
I wanna keep my eyes on and see what's happening here. So wow, Justin Gaethje just actually posted something on Twitter saying that he's 165.2 pounds as of this moment, as Charles Oliveira is still trying to go out there and sort out the last half pound. So absolute savage there. Marcel Dorf saying Oliveira is 155.5 on his second weigh-in. He lost his belt on the scales. Gaethje is likely the only one who can win the vacant belt tomorrow. So, man, what a whirlwind of a last hour. I can't believe Charles Oliveira ends up losing to the scale, dog. Let's start off from the top. Usually I start from the bottom of the card. Let's start off right at the top. Let's start off with the main event. We'll talk about it a little bit here, and obviously we'll talk about what the weight miss implications. Charles Oliveira, I guess, former champ, taking on challenger Justin Gaethje here. In terms of odds, we're currently looking at -170 and +150 the return on Justin Gaethje. I'm already seeing the numbers start to come down. -160 now for Charles Oliveira, +140 the return on Justin Gaethje. Okay, sorry. It looks like there's a UFC official about to make an announcement here. So let me let me just quickly hear what he says here. Update. The fight is still on. The title is vacant.
Damn.
If Charles wins, the belt will be vacant. If Gaethje wins, he will be the champion. That's according to... Yeah, that's according to a UFC spokesperson who just made a statement to the media members there. God damn, that is crazy. I know you're a journalist extraordinaire, so I'll let you get those tweets out and those messages out that you need to hear. So I'll quickly tee this up for you and then bring it on back to you. Charles Oliveira, again, like Alex was saying, has had weight issues in the past at 145 pounds, but since moving back up to 155 pounds, never really a miss, right? He's pretty much had his weight under control, and he's been able to put together a solid 10-fight winning streak. One of the knocks on him back in the day used to be the fact that he would quit in fights. As soon as he faced adversity, he would, look for the exit, and, fighters were more than likely take him to the exit. But managed to string together 10 straight wins, which included a title win and a title defense last time around against Dustin Poirier back in December. Solid striking, great jiu-jitsu, holds the record in the UFC for most submission victories at 15. I was thinking he's going to add another one to his record this weekend with number 16 over Justin Gaethje, but you got to believe that the weight miss here is going to have a huge factor. And not to mention, like, again, the big point here, he weighed in at 155.5 pounds. They give him another hour, and he still can't cut the half pound. You got to wonder how drained a fighter is to not even be able to sweat for another hour to even get a half a pound off. What are your thoughts about this matchup? And obviously, try to digest what just happened as well.
Dude, it's almost making me speechless. Like, it's always been an issue for him, and then he's been grinding so hard. And he changed his body, changed everything, changed weight classes, goes up, and then he misses weight, and then he loses his title that he's grinded so hard to get, dude. What the fuck? Dude, wow. I mean, so I mean, I think the pendulum kind of swings for Gaethje because I picked Charles Oliveira to beat Gaethje, but now it's like with him being so drained and him putting his body through another hour to try and cut weight, it's like maybe it's going to take some damage on his chin, and we all know Justin Gaethje swings hard, and I feel like if he catches Charles, it might be even more extreme.
Yeah, it could definitely be more impactful, especially when you're not getting the fluids back into your brain and all that type of stuff. Like it's a big concern for me personally as a bettor. One of the bets that I was looking at is the under 2.5. Right, I was thinking that somebody's going to get it finished. Somebody's going to go out there, whether it's Charles Oliveira finding a submission, maybe even a potential TKO from him as well, or on the flip side for Justin Gaethje finding that big shot and eventually putting him out. And now it's kind of making me even more confident in taking that violence bet here on the under 2.5. I'm absolutely certain that we're going to see this line get smashed on Justin Gaethje now, and I wouldn't even be surprised if it either comes down to a plus 120-ish range for Justin Gaethje, or even a pick 'em line here for Gaethje. One statistic I've been throwing out all week, and I'll continue to throw it out, is the violence bets have been cashing for Charles Oliveira for the last 16 fights that he's had. 15 out of 16 fights have all finished under 2.5 rounds. The only one to go over that 2.5 round mark was the Tony Ferguson fight, where he just pretty much grappled him the entire time, nullified his jiu-jitsu, kept him on the ground, and just grinded him out. In terms of a prediction, man, I might have to make that last minute swing here. Again, not often do I make a swing after a weight miss because I don't try to put too much into it. But when it's this significant, like to the point that you're not able to get that extra pound off, I feel like his durability is going to suffer extremely here. And I think that Gaethje, once he lands on him, will likely be able to hurt him and put him out of there. And I think Gaethje might even know right off the bat, let's go after this motherfucker, right? Let's just go after him. He's more than likely not going to be fully recovered from that damage that he's done to his body. Let's try to just get him out of there as soon as possible and make this an easy night. So yeah, I'm making the full 180 here, man. I'm going to go with Justin Gaethje. I'm going to take him to win by knockout, but more than likely my favorite bet here is going to be the under 2.5, just in case Charles Oliveira says fuck it as well and throws some flying knee or something and lands something crazy as well. I'll go with Gaethje. Who are you going to go with here?
I'm mimicking you, and I'm going Gaethje too. Like, I had Charles Oliveira definitely winning this, and now that this weight guy's totally swinging me the other way, and yeah, I think Gaethje gets it done. Wow, I mean, what a
I know, dude. I'm trying to put you. I'm trying to put my words together. I can see you even trying to put your words together, right?
Oh, dude.
Hey, can you remember off the top of your head the last time something like this happened, where a fighter lost the belt on the scales?
No,
if there's anybody in the comments section that remembers as well, hit me as well. But
what's crazy is last time they were in Arizona, Figgy was last minute had a last minute weight cut issue, and we all in the media room, we all thought he was going to miss, and then last minute he just pulled it off. So like that's the last one that's like very recent. We're like, oh my god, is Figgy going to miss weight? But as for who was the last one to do? Maybe
Lucas saying Nico Montano, but I don't know if that was on the scale. I think she just, she just vacated it, and then Valentina ended up finding somebody else for the title.
Yoel Romero missed weight.
Yeah,
in his Luke Rockhold.
Wasn't the champion though, right? I believe it was for a vacant title, if I'm not mistaken, or even the interim title. But yeah, he missed weight because of that as well. Man, it's going to take me a while to process that, man. I wasn't expecting to start the show off like that. That is absolutely crazy. All right, let's move on to the next fight here, because there were only 2 weight misses on the card. That was obviously the most insignificant one of them. We'll talk about the other one a little bit later on in the show. Let's get to the co-main event here. Let's try to get our shit back together here. We got strawweight strap on the line. Carlos Esparza taking on champion Rose Namajunas. This is a rematch of a fight that took place in December of 2014. And that night, I believe it was only the 5th professional fight for Rose Namajunas. She had a tremendous amount of pressure on her shoulders, especially from Dana White saying, she could be the next Ronda Rousey. She could be the next big thing. more often than not, whenever Dana White tries to hype somebody up from the Ultimate Fighter, doesn't pan out for them, right? The other one that comes to mind is obviously Uriah Hall. He was very impressive on the show. We all remember that spinning back kick knockout he had over Adam Cella, but never really panned out into the killer that a lot of people expected him to be. Rose Namajunas, on the other hand, it took her a while to finally get her shit together, but once she did, she managed to capture the title. She lost the title, but she got it back again. And now this is going to be the fourth fighter that she's going to be rematching inside the UFC. And she's hoping to make a statement here, especially considering that it was her first ever loss in the UFC. Personally, I do think that Rose is up to the challenge here now. I think she's vastly improved from the fighter that we saw back in 2014. Her distance management is much better. Her striking is improving. She's really learning how to turn her shots over now to really allow her to have that knockout power, which is very deceiving at 115 pounds, right? Not a lot of fighters we can say, oh, that fighter has knockout power. Jessica Andrade, maybe, right? That's about it. And then you look at Rose Namajunas, doesn't look like somebody that can put your lights out, but she's done it over and over again to high-level fighters, right? Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Weili Zhang, to be specific. Here, she obviously has to worry about a wrestler-heavy threat from Carlos Esparza, one of the best wrestlers in that division. I believe Tatiana Suarez has moved up to 125 pounds now, so I think we can legitimately give that best wrestler at strawweight to Carlos Esparza. Going to be a tough task for Rose to stop those takedowns. I think she will get taken down, but I do think she'll do a good job of either fighting off of her back with throwing up submissions or finding reversals, or pushing on the hips of Carlos Esparza, getting back to her feet, and then getting back to her bread and butter of using her striking and potentially finding a late finish in this fight. So I'm going to go with Rose Namajunas and still here. Not a huge amount of confidence to the point that I'm actually going to bet it, but I'm actually looking at the under 4.5 here. I'm thinking violence either way, right? Carlos Esparza, if she's truly going to be as dominant as most people expect her to be on the mat, likely she could find the finish once again. But on the flip side with Rose Namajunas, she can finish you on the ground. She can finish you on the feet. I think the longer that this fight goes, the more we see it play out in the striking realm, and that's where Rose will eventually find that knockout blow. I'm going Rose inside the distance. What about you, Alex?
Answer me this, and I wanted to go back and watch the fight, but did Weili Zhang take down Rose in their second fight?
5 times.
Okay. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. I went to UFC stats, and I think I was looking at the wrong column or whatever, but yeah. So I've kind of had this feeling all week that Carlos Esparza could make this a boring fight and just kind of take down Rose and kind of just grind her out for 5 rounds. And I have that in the back of my mind, but realistically, I think Rose is probably the best strawweight in the world right now, and by a pretty good margin. So, and I would have to think that she trained most of her training camp, her wrestling. You know what I'm saying? She knows Carlos Esparza's game plan. We all know Carlos Esparza's game plan. It's not fucking rocket science. So so while I kind of have in the back of my mind that Carla could get it done, I do think I agree with you, and I think Rose probably stops her in the probably third, fourth round, man. Now the question to you I want to do is, I've been hearing a lot of people say it. If she beats Carla, does she pass Joanna as the best strawweight of all time?
It's hard to not agree with that, man. You're talking about beating Joanna twice, decisively, pretty much both times, beating Weili Zhang, the other champion, beating Jessica Andrade, the under champion, avenging that loss. I would like to see that fight again, a trilogy of that fight if Rose does end up getting past Carlos Esparza tomorrow night, because again, it's 1-1. Not to mention the tide was kind of swinging at the ending of that second fight with Jessica Andrade really butchering Rose Namajunas, but Rose, still getting her hand raised via decision that night. But if they're able to go out there and have that trilogy and she beats Jessica Andrade decisively, then yeah, I think that's what we need to wait for. You can say it. You can say it if she beats Carlos Esparza, but for me personally, and it's more so selfish than anything, I would like to see her kind of right the wrong of the Jessica Andrade fight, because that the momentum was definitely shifting in that fight. Now give them 5 rounds. Back then they only had 3 rounds. It's hard to, right? Joanna is the GOAT apparently, but she's lost to her twice now. Makes sense.
It isn't. It's like, what do you value more? Do you value like getting the wins in the rematches or title defenses? You know, because Joanna still has her beaten title defenses, and Rose's last, like, I think her last 5 fights have all been rematches.
Yeah.
So I feel like if Rose were to go out and beat Carlos Esparza and then she beats Marina Rodriguez, then I'll be more like, okay. Now
She's being the best of the best, though, right? And you're right. There are a crop of fighters still coming up that deserve a title shot and could make a statement as well. But as of this point, I can't argue. Yeah, Rose is probably one of the best in the game right now, especially at that division. So, in terms of a prediction, you're going to go with Rose. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Perfect. All right, let's keep this moving along because we got a great fight next up. We got Michael Chandler coming in as a -400 favorite, taking on Tony Ferguson coming in as a +300 underdog. Violent fight, man. You know, a lot of people expected Gaethje and Chandler to not go the distance. It ended up going to 50 minutes to the surprise of many, especially with the amount of shots both of those guys ate, just slinging leather. If I'm not mistaken, you were there live for that fight. I'm sure you still have goosebumps thinking about that fight, if I'm not mistaken. But great fight there. But here, you know, Tony Ferguson, a lot of people calling him washed, you know, had a very tough go, especially since COVID era, losing that fight to Justin Gaethje in the first event back for the UFC, and then getting smothered for 80% of his last 2 fights by Beneil Dariush, and obviously now former champion Charles Oliveira. Here we go again with this Charles Oliveira shit. But this is a different stylistical matchup, right? Michael Chandler, known as a wrestler, but really doesn't use his wrestling as much anymore. He likes to throw with the leather. He likes to look for the knockout. He likes to be the exciting fan favorite. And I can see that kind of happening here as well, right? For the betterment of his career, he shouldn't go out there and do that because he's 1-2 in the UFC right now. A loss here would make him 1-3, not the way you want to start off your UFC career. Although you've gained a bunch of fans, you still got to go out there and get the dubs so that you can get back to the title, right? See you at the top, right? Isn't that his famous saying? Like he wants to go out there and do that. If he was smart, he would try to take this fight to the ground and really try to grind out Tony Ferguson. I have question marks about his ability to deal with Ferguson's unorthodox approach with his jiu-jitsu off of his back. Like Beneil Dariush and Charles Oliveira, great jiu-jitsu players. Michael Chandler, great wrestler, but we still got to figure out how he does with his top pressure there. Tony Ferguson, on the other hand, like he needs this dub, man. He really, really needs this dub. 0-3 in his last 3 fights. Not a good look for him. He's obviously getting up there in age as well. I don't know if he'll be able to withstand the power of Michael Chandler, though. I think Chandler eventually lands on him, gets him out of there, and wins via first round knockout. The bet that I'm looking at myself as a gambling man is the fight doesn't go to decision. I think it's hanging around -180. I think there's a possibility that Tony Ferguson could get a club in sub situation where he might even be able to pull out one of his patented anaconda or Darce chokes, especially if there's a sloppy shot from Michael Chandler later in this fight. Ferguson probably has a cardio advantage in this fight as well. If Michael Chandler is forced to work a lot, he's going to be forced to work, right? Tony Ferguson is still non-stop action all the time, and he's going to be coming at you at every single moment. So either Chandler gets this done early or, you know, things get a little bit fishy for him later in this fight. I'll go Chandler first round KO, but I'm not betting him at -400. I think that's a fool's errand here to bet him as that big of a favorite. He doesn't have the same style as the last couple guys that have beaten Tony Ferguson. Things might get a little bit fishy, but I still do think his power will prevail and he'll be able to get the dub here. So Chandler first round KO is what I'm going to go with. What about yourself?
Man, I think Tony Ferguson's going to beat Michael Chandler, and I've been saying it. And I've been saying it, and I'm still going to fucking say it. So if Michael Chandler does, I mean, if he was a smart man, he would go out and wrestle Tony Ferguson. Although Tony Ferguson has very good wrestling too, it's just different from Michael Chandler's, right? I just don't think Michael Chandler is going to do that, and I think once he hears the crowd, once he hears Tony Ferguson, who is a fan favorite, and the crowd's going to be behind him, he's going to stand and bang with Tony Ferguson. Now, it's no secret Tony Ferguson has looked very bad his last 3 fights, but I think with the time off, and he said during media day that he was injured in his last 2 fights. I think with the time off, him doing him having fun again, him being not injured. I think that's going to play a lot in this fight. And I think he's going to beat Michael Chandler. Now, does he finish Michael Chandler? I don't know. I don't know if he does. So I'm going Tony Ferguson, a unanimous decision. That is my pick. That is my pick. What are the props for Tony UD?
Tony, okay, first of all, Tony via decision. Let's get that one out of the way first. We got Tony looking at plus 550 for him to win by decision. For him to win specifically by unanimous decision, there's a website that offers that. That's plus 800.
God damn. Yeah.
If only you were a betting man, my guy.
I know, right? So, yeah, I think Tony's going to get it done. And I said it the second this fight is booked. I love this fight because of the violence and the name value, but I hate this fight because one of these guys is going to be on a very bad skid. And both guys really need a win. And I think Tony Ferguson's going to get it done.
All right, a bold take from my guy, Alex Behunin. Let's see if he has egg on his face come Saturday night. We'll find out very, very shortly. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got a couple of old-timers going at it. We got a rematch of Mauricio Shogun Rua coming in as the plus 200 underdog. The flip side, we got Ovin St. Preux. Actually, it's plus 225 now for Shogun, minus 265 the return on Ovin St. Preux. Another rematch that was a month before Rose and Carla, November of 2014, when Ovin St. Preux went out there as a plus 140 underdog that night and starched Shogun Rua in 34 seconds. That's where we got the infamous skateboard gif out of that meme. Probably one of my favorite things ever that was created and put on Twitter. But Ovin St. Preux, man, hits like a Mack truck. I've been kind of writing off Shogun, my favorite fighter of all time. Shogun's my favorite fighter of all time.
I know that. Okay.
But I started writing him off after he got guillotine choked by Chiasson way back in 2013. Yet here he is 9 years later, still doing the damn thing. And now he did pick up a couple of decent victories since that Chiasson loss, but to tap to a guillotine choke from Chiasson was at that point in career for Shogun was very despicable. I'm going to use that term, despicable. It was not a good look at all from a guy Shogun, and didn't even look that tight, to be honest. Who am I to talk though, right? I'm not a fighter. I'm just a keyboard warrior, if anything. But Shogun, he has gotten smarter as his career has gone on, though, right? He doesn't just normally rely on his striking. He'll engage in the clinch. He'll look for takedowns. He'll try to grind you out, and he'll go for those takedowns later in a round, especially if it's a very close round, right? So good work from him there. Unfortunately, I just don't think he's going to be able to show that off because I think he's going to get laid out pretty simply the same way he did the first fight. The last thing to go for a lot of fighters is power. And Ovin St. Preux, although he's only a year and a half younger than Shogun Rua here, he still has shown that he has a tremendous amount of power. He's still going to be the more explosive and faster fighter in this situation. And Shogun, whenever he gets touched on the chin, man, it just does not look good. There's nothing more that I want to see than Shogun Rua go out on a win here. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Ovins finds that chin. He's been talking about it in media day, saying that he wants to go out there and prove a statement, wants to try to up his or do better than his last performance against Shogun Rua. It's going to be a tough task to defeat him quicker than 34 seconds, but I still don't think he'll be able to find that chin. Just let a barrage of strikes go. One of those will likely drop Shogun. The referee will step in there shortly thereafter. A couple bets that I'm looking at. Fight doesn't go to decision at minus 180. I think that's a damn good bet here rather than taking the chalk on Ovin St. Preux at minus 265. And also Ovin St. Preux to win inside round one, plus 200. Give me that shit because I think that's going to be a damn good bet and will more than likely cash here. So OSP, first round KO. Hurts me to say that, Alex. It really does. Like I got my Shogun Rua poster right over to the side here the night that I beat Lyoto Machida back at UFC 113, but I'll cover that up for the sake of this fight, but I think he gets starched once again. What are your thoughts here? You got another nutty take from me on the Shogun Rua side, or
absolutely, bro. Shogun Rua is gonna submit OSP, bro.
Submission.
So, man, first let me say, Shogun getting finished by Paul Craig, Shogun tapping to strikes is not a good look at all. Obviously,
that was bad.
it was bad. It was heartbreaking. He probably should have called it a career there, but I think there's a reason why he took the time off, why he handpicked OSP to come back to, because I think he thinks it's a winnable fight, and he wants to avenge this loss. And in all of his interviews this week, he's like, I got embarrassed in Brazil. So I think this fight really means a lot to him, obviously. And OSP is probably top 3 most inconsistent fighters in the UFC by far. The thing is he packed a lot of punch. Shogun's chin obviously is not the same as it once was. Hence him getting finished by Paul Craig, who's not a good stand-up artist at all. But I think I'm letting my old school bias kind of seep through my Shogun love, which I shouldn't do, but it is. I don't give a fuck. It's just one of those fights where I'm just like, I don't give a shit, dude. I'll probably be heartbroken tomorrow night, and I know there's a bunch of people just waiting to tweet me and say I'm a fucking idiot, and whatever. It is what it is. I am dumb. So Shogun Shogun by submission round 2.
If you see an angle, fucking stick with it. You know what I mean? That, like, you did make a damn good case there. I can't complain about that. And it's interesting to me that Shogun did agree to this fight, right? And more often than not, we see in those situations when fighters have that type of reputation with the UFC, they give them a list of fighters. It's not they just say you're fighting same Preux next. They probably give him same Preux, maybe even throw in Nogueira's name in there for the hell of it, just once again. I think get the 5th fight if I'm not mistaken between them or something like that. But he chose same Preux. Right.
Exactly. And I mean, they could have easily given him like Gelton Almeida, right? Or like someone, a younger fighter to make a name off of Shogun. They could have easily done it because Shogun has said he wants 2 more fights. And the UFC likes to do the old WWE thing where you go out in a loss and they're going to build somebody up. So they could have easily given him a killer, but there's a reason why they're doing the rematch, because he handpicked OSP, and he's going to finish OSP.
I will tweet you immediately if that happens out of elation. Let's see how this goes. All right. Shout out to my guy Average Joe asking about the Charles Oliveira weight miss. Go to the beginning of the show. Just rewind, and you'll see us like live reaction, finding out that Charles Oliveira is now no longer the lightweight champion. So just hit that rewind. Go to the beginning of the podcast, because I don't want to keep repeating ourselves for the audio of listeners or even people watching this afterwards as well. All right, Alex. Let's move on to the next fight here. We got the curtain jerker of the main card. What is this? 2013? Is this a throwback card or something? First, we got Shogun and freaking Ovince St. Preux running it back. And now we got Donald Cowboy Cerrone taking on Joe Lauzon. In terms of odds, we're currently looking at minus 170 minus 185 for Donald Cerrone, plus 160 the return on Joe Lauzon. I'm kind of mystified here, right? Why is Joe Lauzon coming back? He had the picture-perfect way to ride off into the sunset. You get a big win against a rising prospect in Jonathan Pierce in front of your home crowd. Not just a win, you get a dominant victory as well in the first round, absolutely bull rushing him, chopping him down immediately and getting the dub there. For some reason, they give him Donald Cowboy Cerrone. He's like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's do it again. And now here he is going up against Cowboy. He looks solid on the scales. Looks like a guy that was very much prepared for this fight. I spoke to Tyson Chartier yesterday, who, good friends with Joe Lauzon, Northeasterners, stick together pretty well there. And he's saying that Joe's pretty much been living in the gym, man, just working day in and day out to try to make a statement in this fight and maybe ride off into the sunset once again with a name like Donald Cowboy Cerrone on his record now. And then on the flip side, I've been hearing the same thing about Cowboy. Apparently, he has his RV parked at the parking lot of the PI, and he's just been training as hard as he can to, get his first win, which would be his first win in 3 years. Last time he got his hand raised was against Ally Quinta in May of 2019. A picturesque Donald Cowboy Cerrone performance that night, absolutely demolishing Ally Quinta for the majority of 25 minutes. I still lean with the Cowboy Cerrone side here. My only concern is the fact that he's a very slow starter, right? If you go out there and just bum rush him right off the bat, you could potentially find that shin and get a quick stoppage here, similar to what Alex Morono was able to do. Not as quickly though, obviously, right? I believe that fight ended with like seconds remaining in that first round. But either way, Joe Lauzon's got to know that's his best way of winning this fight. Let's try to get it done early, because his cardio, the longer that his career has gone, has not looked the greatest. We saw him, forced to have to stop the fight against Chris Gritzmacher. He got stopped by Clay Guida by punches. Who does Clay Guida stop via punches anymore? Nobody, except Joe Lauzon. And then obviously he was able to go out there and get that big one against Jonathan Pierce. But again, if he can replicate what he did against Jonathan Pierce, I could see him getting his hand raised. There's a couple crazy odds out there in terms of Joe Lauzon winning in round 1 via KO, sitting around plus 1,200. Not a bad spot, right? That is absolutely his way to win this fight. Just bum rush Cowboy Cerrone and try to get to him before Cerrone gets into his groove. Because once Cerrone gets into his groove, he is the much better fighter by a mile at this point in their career. I know they're both pushing 40 at this point in time, but I still do think that Cerrone has the chops to go out there and put together a solid performance against Joe Lauzon. Prediction is going to be Cerrone. Looked solid on the scales to me this morning. I do think he'll be able to, withstand their early barrage, then start to put it together and get Joe Lauzon out of there in the second round. But once again, just as the constant theme has been for this entire main card, give me some violence, Alex. I'm looking at the violence bet here, under 2.5. I believe it's sitting around minus 150. Let me just quickly confirm that number here for you guys. Under 2.5, actually minus 180 now. I still don't mind that number. I think there's going to be violence either way. Whoever wins will likely get it done via finish. I'm going to go with Cowboy Cerrone, though. What about yourself? What do you got here?
Joe Lauzon first round knockout.
Look at this fucking guy. Look at this fucking guy.
He is. That's Joe Lauzon is known for his first round finishes.
Yeah.
Donald Cerrone is a very slow starter. I don't think he's going to be able to survive it, and Joe Lauzon's is going to knock out Donald Cerrone. I would love to see Donald Cerrone go out with a win, because he's been a fan favorite for many years. He's put the UFC on his back for many years. I just think you look at some fighters, man, and their downfall is heartbreaking, man. BJ Penn, Anderson Silva, you know what I'm saying? These long losing streaks, and I think he is going to be victim to that. Chuck Liddell, you know what I'm saying? Rashad Evans, you know what I'm saying? It's just fucking name them. Vanderlei Silva, name them. You know what I'm saying? So
my favorite fighter. God damn it, breaking my heart over and over again over here.
You know what I'm saying? So, and I think the story does not end well, and Joe Lauzon's going to knock out Donald Cerrone first round.
There you guys have it. Some underdog takes from my guy Alex Behunin. With he makes a good point about a lot of them though. It's hard to make a solid case that Cowboy Cerrone won't get put out in that first round, which is why I'm not willing to pay that minus 180 on his money line here. But yeah, one of these guys is gonna go down, just like my guy DXJC is saying here, under 2.5. Hopefully one of these man kills the other swiftly. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen here. All right, let's move on to the prelims here. We'll get through these relatively briefly here. Kicking things off, I might be off on this. You can confirm this for me, but it seems like Andre Fialho and Cameron VanCamp is headlining the prelims. Is that correct?
So it's flipped back and forth. One day it was Fialho, and then the other day it was Chaos Williams. So
yeah,
I think let's see. Let me do UFC stats real quick.
According to MMA Junkie's weigh-in results page, they have Fialho and Cameron VanCamp as the prelim headliner. I'm not sure. Go ahead.
UFC stats has Randy Brown versus Chaos Williams.
All right, you know what? Let's go UFC stats order. We'll start off with Brown versus Williams. Great fight there. Obviously, Chaos Williams, putting together solid performances, showing that he's not just this one punch knockout kind of guy. Obviously, he had that big knockout victory over Miguel Baeza last time around. He also outstruck him 49-31 in that fight. But the fight before that was the one where he tried to show off his total tool set, 91 strikes to 64 strikes, beating Matthew Semelsberger via decision. But I think he has his work cut out for him here against Randy Brown, who I believe is is the much better fighter overall. He has a plethora of UFC experience. His tall, rangy kickboxing style, I think, will cause Chaos Williams some issues, especially in terms of being able to close the distance and land his big power shots. Chaos Williams has landed some decent leg kicks over his last couple fights, so that might be a point of emphasis for him here to kind of chop down the tree of Randy Brown and then let his hands go after that. But I'd kind of be surprised if he can do it effectively here. I think we'll see Randy Brown check those kicks properly, and I think we'll see him put his hands together, you know, stick behind that teep and that front kick and keep him on the outside and just paint a picture with the striking from distance. I think Randy Brown is a solid underdog play. I believe he is still the underdog. Let me just quickly confirm that for you guys. He is sitting at +1. Actually, it's getting close to a pick'em line here now. We got about -115 on Chaos Williams, -105 on Randy Brown. So earlier in this week, you could get Randy Brown around +110. Some love coming on into it or on him throughout fight week, and justifiably so. I like the Randy Brown side here. I even like him by decision, which actually sits at +325. Great bet there, in my opinion. Chaos Williams, very durable, very difficult to put away. And I think that Randy Brown, although he is known as a finisher, he'll have to go back to what he did in the Jared Gooden fight last time around, you know, land upwards of 100 significant strikes and win this fight via decision. I'm going Randy Brown decision. What about yourself, Alex?
Same thing. I'm on Randy Brown decision. I do think Randy Brown is the more well-rounded fighter. I think a lot of people are just looking at the recency bias of Chaos Williams, of him starching people, which he's good. He beat my guy Matthew Semelsberger, but although it was a very close fight. And he beat Miguel Baeza. Randy Brown, before he got finished by Vicente Luque, I thought he was beating Vicente Luque. He looked very, very good. And then that Nico Price fight, he was doing a lot of damage, and Nico Price just got him with a wild knockout. You know what I'm saying?
You want to talk about never seeing that again? That's probably one of those knockouts we'll never see again.
Exactly. Ever. So, although I do think the knockout for Chaos Williams is going to be there all 15 minutes, and he could connect. I just think Randy Brown is going to stay a distance, pick him apart. I could even see Randy Brown using his wrestling and taking Chaos Williams down and using his ground game, because Randy Brown is very good on the ground as well. And we really haven't seen that too much from Chaos Williams because everybody wants to stand and bang with him. So I'm very curious to see what the submission prop is for Randy Brown, but I'm going Randy Brown unanimous decision.
Love to hear. I'm glad that we're on the same page with that one there. It seems like you were just picking against me for the sake of picking against me. Well, I'm glad that we're on the same spot there. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We're looking at, again, UFC stats is the order that we're going to be going with. Francisco Trinaldo, 43-year-old Francisco Trinaldo, taking on Danny Roberts. Both guys looking solid on the scales. In terms of odds, pretty much a pick-em fight here. Both guys coming in at -110. You got to believe that at this point in time, Danny Roberts is the much better fighter. You know, younger, more athletic, faster, has great striking. Francisco Trinaldo, averages roughly about 30 significant strikes landed per fight, which is not a good look, especially if you're going the full 15 minutes time and time again. Sometimes he's able to squeak it out. Sometimes he's not. Danny Roberts, I think, is going to be able to put solid output on him here. Good volume, stay busy, with the jab, try to stay safe at distance. But there's always that one shot that Francisco Trinaldo could possibly land and put Danny Roberts' lights out. I have question marks about Roberts' durability. And I think that, if Francisco finds that chin, he could probably put him out. I think it's roughly around +400, +500 for Trinaldo to win via knockout. That would be the much better bet rather than playing him at even money on the money line. But I do think it's ultimately that's going to be Roberts who sticks and moves well here, stays on the outside, and boxes his way to a victory here. Give me Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts, but I ain't touching this fight with my money. I'm keeping that money in my pocket and putting it on different fights. What are your thoughts for this matchup? What do you like here?
I'm agreeing with you again. I think Danny Roberts stays on the outside, picks apart Francisco Trinaldo. At some point, Trinaldo's going to have to show his age at 43 years old. It's got to happen, dude. He's not going to fight till he's 67 years old, is he? I mean, goddamn.
Maybe, dog.
like you said, there's a chance that he lands uh, a knockout punch, but I don't see it. I don't see it. I think Danny Roberts is just the quicker, younger, more hungry. I think it pissed him off that he didn't get on that London card, I believe. Yeah, right. And because that's what he told me, that he was disappointed. So I think he's gonna take out his anger on Trinaldo and just kind of outpoint him to get the UD.
Masseron Duba's gotta hang it up, but we'll see if he can actually end it off on a win here, fighting that chin of Roberts. Neither me or Alex believe that's actually going to happen. All right, let's keep this trade moving along. Next up, we got Macy Chiasson and the other weight miss this morning. Norma Dumont coming in at 146 and a half pounds. Not a good look for her, especially after having those weight miss gaffes at 135 pounds. Had to believe that she was going to be comfortable at 145. She still goes out there and misses the weight. Not a good look from her at all. Now it doesn't look like she was drained or crazy. Like what Charles Oliveira had to deal with her later on at the weigh-ins. So I do think she'll be okay come fight time. I do think she should be favored. I believe she's roughly around minus 200, plus 170 the return on Macy Chiasson. I think she's the better, more impactful striker. I think she's big enough to deal with the physicality of Macy Chiasson, which is what she's been using for the majority of her wins, right? She used to be heavy chalk in every single fight because she was much bigger than a lot of these women. She was able to drag them to the ground and just overpower them, bully them essentially. But as she starts taking steps up in competition, like she did against Raquel Pennington, you see her fall flat on her face and then obviously get choked out in that fight. Here against Norma Dumont, I think she's going to struggle to get Norma Dumont into those positions, and I think she's going to struggle dealing with the striking of Norma Dumont. I like Dumont here, maybe not at minus 200, but she should be favored here, and I do think she goes out there and gets the win, even with that weight gaff that she had this morning. Give me Dumont via decision. What about yourself, Behunin?
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning your way too. It's crazy because Macy Chiasson missed weight with her return to featherweight, and then now Norma misses weight, and I think you make very good points. It's crazy. I wrote about it all week that Norma Dumont could have cashed her featherweight title shot with the win over Macy. But with the weight miss, I think that's all but gone. Unless she goes out there and like really dominates or really looks good. I don't think this is going to be the most exciting fight on the card. It reeks of just cage control and honestly, I do know that I did talk to Macy. She's very, very honed in. She felt embarrassed in her last fight, and she's trying to go out and make a statement. Talk with Safe. He's very, safe. Safe is safe. I just don't know if she beats Norma Dumont, because I think Norma Dumont's very underrated, and she's a fucking tank. So with all that being said, I'm agreeing with you. I think Norma Dumont just wins a UD. Boring fight though.
I will say this though, even with the weight miss, I wouldn't count it out that they don't give her the title shot, right? Like we're talking about a division that doesn't even have rankings because there's nobody in the division. So I think even with the weight miss, if she goes out there and gets the dub, albeit, we still have to wait to see what happens with Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena. They're obviously going to be fighting for the 135-pound title probably later this year. So if anything, Norma Dumont will likely have to fit in another fight after this if she does go out there and get the win. From your perspective, though, what do you think they should do with the 145-pound division?
Man, it all depends on if Amanda beats Juliana or loses to Juliana, right? Because that's the only reason why they still have it. I would like them to get rid of it and just do and bring up the atomweight division. I know a lot of people don't want it because it's smaller girls, which means less finishes. But like, I mean, could you imagine Tisha Torres or like Loma or Karate Hottie going down to atomweight? Like, it's a lot more fun. It's a lot of fun matchups. Plus all the people outside of the UFC. Yeah, so I think it all depends on if Amanda loses to Juliana, so that they kind of can say, oh, Amanda Nunes is still the baddest chick in the world. She's still a champion. But I hope they kind of nix it pretty soon. What do you want to see done with it?
Dude, you took the words out of my mouth. I absolutely agree that they should bring the atom weights in. At least there's more of a division there. There's some fun fighters on that in that division, and there's also some strawweights that can go down to atom weight and add some more name value to it, right? I think maybe you could get Tisha Torres down there. You could get Loma Lukpunmi down there. You could get Jinyu Fry if she's still with the UFC. You can get her down there. There's so many chicks. Sam Hughes would benefit from a 105-pound division as well. So yeah, I think there's more than enough talent, and even the girls that are fighting for that division in Invicta right now, like there's enough talent for them to make a legit 105-pound division, and not to mention actually have rankings for it. Right, like you're talking about barely clinging onto a division with rankings. So, yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. All right. In terms of that fight, both of us going with Dumont, not thinking it's going to be that thrilling. We do agree on that aspect as well. But Dumont should be able to get her hand raised, although she did miss weight this morning. All right. Let's move on to the next fight here. We got Brandon Royval against Matt Schnell. Very, very fun fight. You want to talk about a fun fight? This is the fun fight. We got minus 250 on Brandon Royval, plus 210 the return on Matt Schnell. And speaking of weigh-ins, right? Matt Schnell has had a rough go the last year or so. Obviously, he had his weight miss where you're supposed to go up against Alex Perez. Sorry, he made weight, but was not able to get medically cleared after making weight. And then the next time around, they booked the fight again. Alex Perez misses by what, 1.5 pounds, I think it was. It wasn't that big of a miss. And Matt Schnell was like, I'm good. We're cool. We don't need to do this fight. I'm like, come on, like that's not a good way to be in the good graces with the UFC. They've tried to book that fight 4 times, and now both of you guys are medically cleared to fight. Both of you guys are within decent amount of range of that weight, but you still don't want to fight. Not a good look. Albeit, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. He said a bit of that was due to the fact that he fought Hajiri Bontarine, who did miss weight for that fight, and he felt as though it did make a difference, especially with how much Bontarine was looking to grapple. And that's Alex Perez's game. He's a wrestler. He wants to take it to the ground. He wants to use that weight against you, and maybe he thought that was an advantage for Perez. Schnell, I think he's the better technical fighter here in this matchup against Brandon Royval, but it's the fighting aspect of it that I think Brandon Royval is much better at him then, right? Perfect example is seeing Brandon Royval against Kai Car-France. The Kai Car-France just beat a high-level opponent last couple months ago against Askar Askarov, and he couldn't get past Brandon Royval because of the chaos that Brandon Royval brings to the table. I'm picking Brandon to win here. I just always sweat my ass off playing him at minus 250 as such a big favorite because his margin of error is very, very thin, right? If he goes out there and just slips up one moment, his opponent could absolutely take advantage and find a finish themselves. I'm taking the violence here as well. I don't think this fight goes to a decision. I do think it's either Royval gets a club in sub spot here, or even Schnell could potentially find his own finish as well. Yeah, give me violence. I think it currently sits around minus 150. But in terms of a prediction, I'm going to go with Raw Dog, probably one of my favorite fighters in the UFC right now. I'm going to go with Brandon Royval. What about yourself, Alex?
So this is Brandon Royval's first fight in front of a sold-out crowd. He's been asking.
Oh yeah, good point.
He's been asking for it, and this, there's some fighters that you want to see in front of a sold-out crowd. He's one of them, and I think that's going to play a big factor in this fight because he's one of those fighters that once he hears the cheers, once he hears everything, he just gets more and more active, more and more violent. I do agree with you. I do think Matt Schnell is a little bit more well-rounded with his striking, with his everything. I think Brandon Royval he's in the zone. He was brought to tears that he went to a decision against Bontarine in his last fight. I was there live, and then I was talking to him, and bro, he was fucking crying that he went to a decision. Like, wow. What? Dude, that's crazy. It's crazy. So, this is violence. This is probably fight of the night. Up until we get to the main card. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I think Brandon Royval finishes Matt Schnell. I'm going to say submission round 2.
I like it. I like it. Glad that we're on the same spot there as well. All right, let's rifle through these last couple ones that we got up. We got Blagoy Ivanov going up against Marcos Rogerio de Lima. In terms of odds, we're currently looking at minus 150 for the returning Blagoy Ivanov, plus 130 the return on Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Now we haven't seen Ivanov since May of 2020, which was the same month that the UFC returned after this whole COVID issue or pandemic. And then on the flip side for Rogerio de Lima, 2-fight winning streak, obviously goes out there and grinds out Maurice Green 2 fights ago. And then in his last fight, just absolutely starches Ben Rothwell, sending him out of the UFC. That's de Lima's game though, right? Either he has that big grappling advantage over his opponents, or he just gets you out of there in the first round. There's no real in between, because if he does fight a guy that has some resistance to his grappling and can withstand his big power, he starts to lose that confidence and starts to slow down later in fights, and then eventually gets finished himself. Blagoy Ivanov might be our modern day Roy Nelson in terms of the amount of damage this guy can sustain and continue to move forward. You need proof? Go back and watch this fight with Derek Lewis, because this guy ate bombs from Derek Lewis and continued to move forward in that fight. I do think he deals with the early onslaught from de Lima here, and then starts to put it on him later in this fight, eventually getting him out of there probably in the second or third round. I'm a big Blagoy Ivanov fan, which is not something you'll hear from a lot of people, but I do think he goes out there and gets the dub here. What about yourself, Alex?
My brother, I am a fan too. I'm so happy he's back. I think he should be on a, let's see.
I'm glad that you're bringing this up. A couple sketchy losses there, right?
Yeah, I think he should be on a 4-fight win streak, because I thought he beat Derek Lewis and I thought he beat Sakai. Whatever, it is what it is. De Lima is very inconsistent too, and he's not going to knock out Blagoy Ivanov, and I don't think he's going to be able to submit Ivanov. This does have the opportunity to be a very boring fight as well, with a lot of cage hugging and shit. But I think he broke it down perfectly. Although I don't know if Ivanov finishes the De Lima. But I'm going. My official pick is Blagoy, and I'm happy that he's back. And I do think the time off is really going to help him.
I'm glad to hear that as well. Do you know the exact reason for his layoff? Have you managed to uncover that?
Yeah, it was injuries, and then he moved to Vegas, I believe, and he's training at Extreme Couture now. But mostly I believe it was a knee injury. Don't quote me, but I believe that's what it was. I could get you a better answer in an hour if I were to hit up Eric.
Perfect. No, I do recall seeing more videos and pictures of him actually training at Extreme Couture, and I think that's a great move for him as well, especially with all the extra bodies that he's going to have to train with there as well. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We're looking at Andre Fialho versus Cameron VanCamp. Fialho making a very quick turnaround after knocking out Miguel Baeza last month. He's taking on Cameron VanCamp, who's been itching to get inside the cage, right? If you guys remember last year, he was supposed to fight Nicholas Mota. Mota pulls out day of the fight. Cameron VanCamp gets put on ice, and now here he is, ready to go and make his UFC debut. Minus 400 is currently the line on Andre Fialho, which I think is a little bit absurd. I think a lot of it has to do with the recency bias of him going out there and getting that knockout victory over Miguel Baeza. Because Cameron VanCamp's not that bad. He has a very good jiu-jitsu game. He has a plethora of different submissions on his record, and I'm not a big fan of Andre Fialho's gas tank either. If you guys go back and watch some of his LFA fights, the guy really starts to slow down, especially if he's not able to get you out of there in the first round. His last 5 out of 6 fights, he's managed to get that first round knockout, which is why there was a lot of buzz on him coming into the UFC against Michel Pereira. But if you go back a little bit further, you got to look at it from a macro version, not a microscope. Look at it from a macro, and you see that when fights do get extended, he does start to struggle. He's a bruiser, likes to go out there and really throw his boxing strikes and try to find the knockout. But his grappling game really needs a little bit of work. And I think if Cameron can deal with that early onslaught, he should be able to drag Fialho to the ground and potentially find a submission. This is the first time I'm actually seeing the VanCamp via submission line, which is currently plus 700. It's going to get a little bit of my money there because I think there's some value there. But in terms of an actual prediction here, I do think Fialho does find that knockout blow in the first round and eventually gets him out of there. Fialho round one currently sits at plus 130. Fialho via KO sits at minus 135. I would rather play that than play Fialho at minus 400, as I believe like if Fialho wins, it's more than likely going to come via finish. So I'd rather take him inside the distance than take the gamble on only getting, if you put $100 on that minus 400, you're only getting put back $25. Not a good gamble in my opinion. I'm going Fialho first round knockout. The other bet that I was looking at was the fight doesn't go to decision minus 300. Better than playing Fialho at minus 400, but you also cover the potential that VanCamp gets to finish as well. So fight doesn't go to decision, my favorite bet there. But in terms of a prediction, let's go with Andre Fialho round one. What about yourself, Alex?
Yeah, I'm going Andre too, although Cameron VanCamp is very good. He's very good. I think people are just looking at Andre's last few fights, and people just don't know Cameron VanCamp, to be honest. That's just what it is. I talked with Andre before his last fight, and he said that he wants to fight 6 times this year.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's fucking serious too. And the reason, and so he said that making his UFC debut at 270 really, it was a curse because now he wants to fight in front of a crowd every single fight. He said that he was very disappointed fighting at the Apex, and that after his win, he went up to Dana White and said, "Please get me on that UFC 274." And Dana granted his wish, and so he's fighting. And I think he will. I think he's gonna knock out Cameron VanCamp first round. I am with you.
I like that as well. And I'm glad that the UFC actually gave him his wish there, right? It's not like he took any crazy damage against Miguel Baeza. Let's just get him right back in there. And if he can do it in front of a crowd, even better. And the fact that we're getting 15 fights tomorrow, knock on wood, that we're getting 15 fights tomorrow in front of a sold-out crowd, that is amazing as well. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We're looking at Tracy Cortez going up against Melissa Gatto. In terms of odds, we're currently looking at minus 130 now on Tracy Cortez, plus 110 the return on Melissa Gatto. This fight was the one that took the most line movement the most action throughout fight week in terms of making a line move, because Tracy Cortez was roughly around minus 180 earlier this fight week. And throughout the week, a ton of love coming in on Melissa Gatto, who continues to impress time and time again. She had that great fight that win over Victoria Leonardo in her UFC debut, where Leonardo was forced to stop fighting, I believe, because she broke her forearm. But it was a great performance from Gatto, really putting the damage on her there. And then she followed that up with a beautiful finish of Sijara Eubanks in round 3 in her last outing. Tracy Cortez is a very promising prospect. Or, I don't even know if we can call it a prospect anymore, because she has a solid amount of wins under her belt in the UFC. A lot of it behind that, the grappling and the wrestling. And I think that's what she's going to have to rely on here in terms of beating Melissa Gatto. The question mark here is, how are the judges going to score it when Melissa Gatto is the one kind of throwing up submissions and striking off her back, and Tracy Cortez is just trying to hold her down? Because I think it's going to be very difficult for Cortez to posture up and get any strikes off, or even, manage to get much offense off. And then once this fight is in the striking realm, I think Gatto is clearly the better striker here. She'll be landing the more impactful strikes. She'll be the more aggressive fighter, and it'll be a lot more difficult for Cortez to get much damage off, in my opinion. So I am going to go with the underdog here, Melissa Gatto. I just don't have the balls to actually bet on Gatto, because I'm a big Tracy Cortez fan. She's won me a lot of money in the past, and I don't know. It's Gatto just seems like a very, very dangerous fighter. This could be the her kryptonite. That wrestling and that grappling of Cortez could come here and really nullify that offensive nature of Gatto. But man, as of right now, I'm on the Gatto train. Give me Gatto, and I think she possibly even wins this fight via decision. That's going to be a very tough ask, especially when she's getting controlled for the majority of it. But criteria number 1 for judging, Alex, what is it? Damage. Yeah. There we go. And I think that's what I think Gatto is going to be getting. She's going to give out a ton of damage here, and I think that's what the judges wound up seeing. How do you see this one going down?
My brother, I am on the Melissa Gatto train too, bro.
Hey, I knew I liked you.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, bro. She's one of the flyweights that I keep saying look out for. She looked very good in her first 2. Is it and I do think she has the capabilities of winning this fight. I just don't know. I just don't. I don't know how good Tracy Cortez is, right? Like she has a lot of hype. We all know that her, grappling is very good. I kind of have a feeling that she's just going to hold Gatto against the cage the whole time. I think that there's a big possibility of that. Because I do not think she wants to stand and trade with Gatto, and it's crazy. Gatto is only 25 years old. It's crazy, bro. It's crazy. It's crazy. Because I think like for 3 of those years, like she was supposed to be in the UFC at like age 22, age 23, and visa issues and all sorts of shit. So I like your breakdown of this, man. I think it's two ways. It's either Tracy Cortez is just going to grapple her and kind of hold her against the fence and win a kind of lackluster decision, or Melissa Gatto is going to go out there and put on a show, kind of show that she is one of the new breeds of this flyweight division, up there with Blanchfield, Maverick, name them. You know what I'm saying? So my official pick, do I do safe? Do I go kind of out of the box? Fucking, I'm going to go Melissa Gatto.
There we go. I'm glad that you went with that side as well. It's a close fight, man. It is a much closer fight than the odds initially indicated. Now that they're closing, I'm seeing that people are finally giving Gatto the respect that she probably deserves in this spot. All right, we got a couple fights left to go here. We'll rattle through them real quick here. Clayton Rodrigues versus CJ Vergara, both Contender Series veterans here. Vergara obviously falling flat in his UFC debut against Ode Osborne back at UFC 265 in August. Clayton Rodrigues, he's the minus 350 favorite here. Big win against Santo Curatolo on the Contender Series. The guy looks like he has the goods, man. I think there's a reason he's the minus 350 favorite here. I like his striking. I like his distance management. I love his kicking game. I think he's going to be able to keep CJ Vergara at bay, and Vergara needs to close that distance to let his hands go and have any success. I think it kind of looks similar to the Ode Osborne fight, with Osborne being successful, keeping him on the outside with his kicking game. That's exactly what Clayton's good at. I think he's even better than Ode Osborne in terms of establishing that. Give me Clayton via decision as well. What do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, I'm not going to bullshit you and say that I know about Clayton. He's the one fighter on the card that I need to go back and look at his fights. I watched his Contender Series fight, and that was enough for me. I know about CJ pretty well. I watched a lot of his fights on the regional scene, but I think Clayton just gets an easy UD.
I love it. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got Ariane Carnelossi going up. My fellow Canadian Lupi Godinez. In terms of odds, we're looking at minus 180 for Godinez, plus 155 the return for Carnelossi. Now, Carnelossi will always have a special place in my heart because of her fight against Na Liang. That was the first fight back in front of a sold-out crowd. First, pay-per-view back in front of a crowd in North America. And good God, what a fight that was. They just came right out of the gate and just went after each other. But I think some of the deficiencies that we saw in that fight from Carnelossi was her takedown defense. And what is Godinez great at? She's great at with her wrestling and her jiu-jitsu. And I think that's exactly how this fight's going to play out. It might be a little bit difficult for her at first, but I think her striking is good enough to stay competitive with Carnelossi. But I think she'll eventually be able to drag this fight to the ground, use her jiu-jitsu, maintain top position, maybe find a submission at a certain point. But I think ultimately, for the purpose of the show, I'll give you guys the fact that she's going to win this fight via decision. I'm going Lupi, not because she's Canadian, but I do think she's the much better fighter here. Carnelossi's a sight to behold, obviously, but physically speaking, that doesn't win you fights, right? If that was the case, Yoel Romero would be the undisputed champion of every single division in the world right now, but that's not the case. I'm going Godinez decision. What about yourself, Alex?
Yeah, I'm with you on this. My only thing is Carnelossi is a tank, so like I was kind of like treading like, is Lupi big enough to take her down? But like you said, Carnelossi got taken down in her previous fights, and Lupi is good at what she does, and I'm just kind of mimicking exactly what you said. I think she'll stay distance enough, kind of avoid the power shots, and take her down. We'll win a decision, and Lupi's back.
Let's go. All right. Let's end this thing off with the first fight of the night here. We're going to go Newson versus Fernie Garcia. Minus 125 on Garcia, plus 105 now on Newson, was actually closer to plus 140 earlier in the week. A lot of love coming in on him, and I thought it was very disrespectful that he was the underdog here. He's the UFC veteran in this fight, right? Fernie Garcia having a lot of close fights on the regional scene, obviously gets that big knockout victory on the Contender Series to punch his ticket to the UFC, but this is another level of fighter that he's going up against. I think Newson will remind people why, he's still in the UFC. He had that quick win over Domingo Pilarte, which got eventually overturned. So technically he's won this inside the UFC, but I think he still has the skill set to deal with the striking advantage that Fernie Garcia might have. But I think he'll be able to drag this fight to the ground, use his superior jiu-jitsu, and possibly either get a submission or just control this fight for the majority of 15 minutes and win this fight. What insight do you have for this fight particularly?
Yeah, my guy Fernie, bro. I'm very high on Fernie. My only concern is he's in Arizona. Arizonans love the Mexicans, and here and he told me when I was in Texas talking with him, he said, he's down to just throw bombs, and is not one to throw bombs with. But he says that he believes that his head movement and everything, he feels like he's the superior boxer, and he's good enough to avoid the bombs. But he said he is down to just slang him and bang him in the ring. So that kind of gives me caution to like go with a smarter pick. But I do think Fernie Garcia is the more well-rounded fighter. And I think he can win on the feet or on the ground. I think it's gonna. I kind of think this ends in a submission, surprisingly. But the safe pick is I'm going Fernie, his decision.
Crazy,
but
crazy.
But there is a chance that he gets his lights put out by Newson if he wants to stand there and bang and hear the roar of the crowd. There's a reason why the UFC put Fernie as the first fight, because he brings a crowd, he brings the Mexican crowd, and it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's a great fight. I'm a big Newson fan myself, and I was kind of, I was feeling the disrespect when they had him as the underdog in this spot. But when you have recency bias, he just got knocked out by Randy Costa in his last fight, and then on the flip side for Garcia, he's coming off an impressive knockout victory of his own. So maybe that's playing into it as well. All right, just to end off the show here, again, I know you're not much of a betting man, but I did ask you what you think your most confident fighter to win on the card is. I don't want you to give me Michael Chandler at minus 400 because I know you already picked Tony Ferguson. Personally, I'm going to go with Lupita Godinez at minus 180. I think she handles Ariane Carnelossi in the grappling aspect here. I'm pretty damn good at picking my women's MMA spots here, and I feel like Godinez is worth the chalk. I think she gets it done. She might even be my lock of the night play. I'm still mulling it over, but I do think I'll pretty much let the bag go on her here to get the win over Carnelossi. What about yourself, Alex?
I think the lock of the night is Andre Fialho. Although I kind of I think Joe Lauzon is going to knock out Donald Cerrone in that first round. Ooh. And I think that might be the one if I was a betting man to go, because he is the underdog. But yeah, so it's Lauzon, and then my lock of the night is Andre Fialho.
There you guys go. All right. Alex, truly appreciate you hopping on with me this past hour. I felt like we went through a roller coaster, especially with that Charles Oliveira thing to kick off this card. Did you happen to come across any other news in regards to that fight while we were doing the stream? Pretty much the same, right? Oliveira is now stripped of his title. If he wins tomorrow, the title is still vacant. If Justin Gaethje wins, he is now the champion. Anything else that we're missing out on there?
I'm still flabbergasted.
Exactly.
I stutter enough, and now like this is making me stutter, bro. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. No, absolutely crazy. So very unfortunate way to go into tomorrow's card, but at least we're still getting the fight. We should still get some chaos in the cage, and that's all that matters at the end of the day, right? The aesthetic of having the gold belt around your face is great and all, but it still doesn't change anything that actually happens inside the cage. And luckily, we're still going to be able to see how it goes. All right, Alex, anything you want to say on the back end here, and then I'll sign us off?
Man, I just want to say thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it. Check me out, Alex Behunin. My humanizing series and my byline is at casecypress.com. Just thank you again for having me. It was fun, and I'll be back whenever you want me to.
Hell yeah, brother. I really appreciate it. I had a ton of fun. Seems like the guys in the comment section enjoyed it as well. And I'm sure the people watching this on the replay will enjoy it as well. You're not going to be at the fights tomorrow, right? You're in the middle of a move, if I'm not mistaken.
I will not be there.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll both be enjoying it on pay-per-view. We'll see how that goes. But again, appreciate you joining me. Shout out to the 100 live viewers that we currently had. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe on the way out. And as well, make sure you guys follow my guy Alex if you don't already. The link to his Twitter channel or Twitter page is in the description below. So just click that thing, hit that follow, show my guy some love and support. One of the best journalists that we have in the game right now. Let's show some more goddamn respect to my guy. All right. On behalf of myself and Alex, appreciate you guys. Enjoy the fights tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern for the Fight Day live chat, chopping it up with you guys in the live chat, taking last minute comments, questions, and concerns for any wagers that you guys want to make on Fight Day. Until then, enjoy the Bellator fights that are currently on right now. I believe the main card just kicked off. PFL later tonight as well, and then the big 274 tomorrow. Peace out, guys. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern.